The desert night was strangely still, the kind of stillness that made every soldier uneasy. Sergeant Elena Reyes sat on the dusty ground beside her unit's armored truck, wiping the sand off her scope. She had always been meticulous about her gear. "A clean rifle saves lives," she would say, and the younger soldiers always nodded, even if they didn't fully understand yet. Tonight, however, wasn't supposed to be a dangerous mission. It was labeled, "Routine Supply Escort," the kind most teams got careless on. Elena didn't believe in routine. She had served long enough to know that danger loved to hide behind simple labels. The convoy moved along the narrow road cutting through the barren valley. The moonlight brushed over the rocks, making them look like sharp teeth waiting to swallow anyone careless enough to get too close. Inside the vehicle, Private Malik hummed nervously, tapping his fingers against his knee. Sergeant Jenkins glanced at him and chuckled. "Relax, kid," Jenkins said. "We'll be back at base before you finish that tune." Elena looked out the window, her instincts prickling. Something felt wrong tonight, horribly wrong, like the silence was holding its breath. Behind them, Colonel Harris rode in the lead vehicle. He trusted Elena more than anyone else in the unit. She had saved lives before, more times than she ever talked about. Some soldiers bragged about their feats. Elena kept hers locked inside her chest like secrets that were too heavy to be remembered aloud. 10 minutes later, the road narrowed into a choke point between two cliffs. The comms crackled uncertainly as radio signals weakened. The wind stopped completely, and then, everything exploded. A thunderous boom shook the world as the lead vehicle lifted off the ground, fire bursting outward like a monstrous flower blooming in the night. Flames lit up the cliffs, revealing silhouettes of men carrying heavy weapons along the ridges. "Ambush! Ambush!" someone screamed through the comms. Chaos erupted instantly. Bullets rained down from both sides. The convoy swerved, soldiers diving for cover. The air thickened with smoke, dust, and the piercing scream of metal being torn apart. Inside the second vehicle, Elena grabbed Malik's vest and dragged him down just as bullets shattered the windshield. Jenkins fired back through the side window, shouting over the gunfire. "We're pinned. They've got elevation." Elena's instincts flared like fire. She hit the comms button, shouting, "All units fall back behind the third truck. Use it as cover." But the third truck wasn't moving. The driver lay slumped over the wheel. Elena knew what she had to do. She kicked open the door, sprinting into the open road despite the hail of bullets slicing past her. Jenkins yelled after her, "Elena, get back here. Are you insane?" But she wasn't insane. She was focused. She reached the third truck, pulling the wounded driver out and dragging him behind the wheel well. Another explosion rocked the cliff, sending shards of rock raining down around her. She gasped for air, her heart racing like it was trying to break out of her chest, but her movements remained sharp. Controlled. Deadly. She jumped into the driver's seat, slammed her foot on the gas, and drove the truck sideways to form a barrier between her team and the gunfire. The moment it screeched into position, soldiers dove behind it, finding precious shelter. "Move, move," she shouted, waving them to safety. But the attackers were prepared. A second explosive, hidden under the sand, detonated beneath the truck's rear tires. The blast hit her like a hurricane of fire and steel. She heard herself scream, but only faintly, through a thick fog of shock. One moment she was behind the wheel, the next she was on the ground several meters away, dust turning into a storm around her. She tried to stand. Her legs didn't respond. She looked down, and she felt the world collapse. Her legs were gone. Blood pooled beneath her. Heat surged through her body. She heard Jenkins shouting her name. Malik's panicked voice. Gunfire everywhere. But the only thing she saw was the empty space where her legs should have been. Still, she pushed herself up on her elbows, crawling forward with sheer stubborn fury. Her weapon lay a few feet ahead, half buried in the sand. She dragged herself toward it, ignoring the agony tearing through her body. She heard Colonel Harris shouting commands, saw shadows rushing toward her, but she kept crawling. A sniper on the cliff reloaded, taking aim at her helpless form. Elena raised her rifle, steadying it on a rock. She fired. The sniper collapsed. Another attacker charged down the slope, but Harris and Jenkins unleashed a burst of fire, taking him down before he reached her. The world blurred, her vision dimming at the edges. Harris dropped to his knees beside her, grabbing her gloved hand. "Stay with me, Sergeant. That's an order." She gave him a weak, crooked smile. "Sir, the convoy's safe." And then everything went dark. When Alina woke up in the field hospital, the white lights stabbed her eyes, and reality hit her like another explosion. She reached for her legs before she could stop herself, and felt only cold, empty sheets. Her breath trembled. A nurse rushed to steady her. "It's okay. You're alive. You saved them all. Alive, but forever changed." Days passed in a blur of pain, surgeries, and silence. Her teammates visited one by one, Malik bringing her drawings from the local children, Jenkins making bad jokes to distract her, and Colonel Harris sitting quietly at her side, his eyes always filled with a heavy mix of guilt and admiration. "You saved all of us," Harris told her one night. "You didn't just move that truck, you changed the outcome of the entire ambush." She shrugged weakly. "Anyone would have done it." "No," Harris said firmly. "Not anyone. You." The military honored her courage, but Alina refused to attend the ceremony. She wasn't ready. She didn't want applause. She didn't want pity. She wanted her legs back, her life back, her independence back. Rehabilitation became her new battlefield. And she fought it fiercely. Every day she pushed herself, sweating, trembling, crying at times, but never stopping. The prosthetics were cold and unfamiliar, biting into her skin in the early months, but she learned to walk again. Slowly, painfully, determinedly, but what truly saved her wasn't strength. It was stubborn hope, and a promise she had made to herself the night she woke up without her legs. "I will not let this be the end of my story." Years passed. Alina became an instructor for new recruits. She taught them not just tactics and discipline, but resilience, courage, grit. They respected her more deeply than she ever expected. Some saluted her the moment they stepped into her training room. Others whispered in awe when she walked across the courtyard on her advanced prosthetic legs, her posture as proud as ever. But one day, a message arrived. A big event was being held at the National Military Academy. Veterans, officers, cadets, and civilians from across the country would attend. Colonel Harris insisted she come. "It's not optional this time," he told her over the phone, his voice warm with a hidden smile. "Just be there." She hesitated, but something inside her whispered that it was time. The auditorium was massive, humming with lively conversation. Alina walked in quietly, her steps steady, though her heart raced. She wore her uniform, the one she had thought she'd never wear again after the injury. The moment she entered, people began to notice. One cadet nudged another. A woman gasped softly, recognizing her. Whispers rippled through the hall. "That's Sergeant Reyes. She's the one from the Valley ambush. She saved an entire convoy." Before she fully understood what was happening, the hall fell into a hush. Colonel Harris stepped onto the stage, his medals glinting beneath the lights. He looked out at the audience, then at her. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced, his voice proud and steady, "today we honor a hero who redefined courage." Her breath hitched. He continued, "She lost both legs saving her team. And she never once complained. Instead, she rose again, stronger, wiser, and more inspiring than ever." Alina felt tears gather at the corners of her eyes. Harris called out, "Sergeant Alina Reyes, please step forward." The hall erupted with applause. Thunderous, emotional, overwhelming. Her heart pounded wildly as she walked slowly toward the stage. Every step echoed louder than the applause in her ears. She climbed the ramp, turning to face the audience. Hundreds of faces watched her, admiring, grateful, moved. And then something happened she never expected. Colonel Harris turned toward her and saluted. Not a formal salute, a deep, heartfelt one. The kind given only to those who had earned the highest respect imaginable. Gasps filled the crowd as officers and cadets immediately followed his example, saluting her in unison, an entire hall standing at attention before her. Her breath trembled. She lifted her trembling hand and returned the salute, tears streaking down her cheeks. In that moment, she didn't feel broken. She didn't feel incomplete. She felt honored, whole, seen, a hero. Colonel Harris stepped beside her and whispered, "You didn't just save our lives back then, you continue to save us every day with your courage. The applause roared again. Alina faced the audience, her voice shaking as she spoke into the microphone. If you fall, she said softly, stand again. And if you can't stand, then crawl, but don't ever stop moving. Your story isn't over unless you decide it is. The hall stood to its feet again, applauding with admiration that washed over her like a warm tide. And as the lights dimmed and the crowd cheered, Alina smiled deeply, a smile filled with triumph, pain, gratitude, and fierce, unstoppable strength. Her story had not ended in that desert. It had only just begun. Before leaving the stage, she added passionately, if you want more stories of brave women who rise against all odds, make sure you subscribe to her World Stories. We honor the women who rewrite history. And the hall erupted once again. Her past had taken her legs. But her courage had taken her farther than she ever dreamed.